We have the mayor in the studio with us today. Jokes are often made on social media that Rustenburg should just be a country on its own. The Rustenburg local municipality has boldly declared its intention to turn Rustenburg into a, and I quote, a world-class city where all communities enjoy a high quality of life. Is this a pipe dream, others will ask? Or, has the mayor and his council of 72 councillors, have they made any form of inroads towards making this a reality? And regular community protests on basic services seem to indicate otherwise. The incomplete rapid transport system, the anger by communities over drugs and prostitution threatens to return over the provision of basic services. We decided we're not going to stick to the rumors. We'll invite the man to come and join us in the studio, Councillor Mpho Khunou. He's going to provide clarity, obviously updates as well. Good morning and welcome to YOUFM.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
We appreciate you, coming to see us. Is it a regular thing for mayors to be awake at this time? You go to the gym, I'm sure, in the mornings?
Yes, I do. I'm usually at work at about 7 in the morning.
Okay.
Yes.
We were expecting you to come in with a mayoral chain.
No.
But that's one of the day. Right, let's get straight to the issues. Let's start with water restrictions. The municipality would have implemented this, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because of, there was persistent drought at some point, and there was, according to a statement that I saw, high water consumptions. Communities around Klavani West and Kllr, they complain that sometimes they go for 4 to 5 days without water. Maybe the period could be less, neither here nor there. Can you give us an update on that and clarify the water demands part?
Right, thank you very much for the opportunity. Well, it's true that especially during December 2019, there were huge challenges of persistent water supply interruptions. And we had to find some long-term solution to solve the problem. The areas of Kllr and Klavani West are supplied from Bosport. It's one of the service providers. And the plant that produces water has been subjected to a lot of power outages. There's been theft of electricity cables to supply the plant. So the supply had been quite irregular and unreliable. Now, I'm pleased to indicate that in December, over December, January, we found an alternative bulk water supply through rainwater. We took about 2 or 3 weeks to do the connection. It is a line that was last used in 2009, right? So you can understand the amount of work you need to do to commission that line. And during the period of late December, early January, we commissioned it, and we believe that we have found a permanent solution. There was a problem last week in those areas of Klavani West, of Kllr. There was a problem for 2 or 3 weeks that they didn't have water. That problem was as a result of a major leak at Haystack Street. It's a major leak which forced us to close that line. I remember there was some protest from residents of Kllr Park in Klavani West. Some of those residents went to the fire station to protest, to demand answers, and I went out at night at about 9 or 10 in the evening to address those residents, and I gave an undertaking that they will get water that same night. What didn't happen the same night, it happened in the early hours. I think the major thing now has been that you do have instances where you must close out supplies to do maintenance. For example, yesterday, one of our suppliers, Rainwater, was doing maintenance on a line that supplies part of that area. So we've got to improve on communication.
I was about to get there.
So if you don't communicate timeously, so residents can just wake up tomorrow and there's no water supply when there's no prior communication. So it's a matter that we are addressing with the relevant directive, which is Directive Infrastructure and Technical Services, that where you do have planned shutdowns, communicate timeously so that residents can make so in terms of water supply generally, I think we have gone through the crisis period that we experienced towards the end of December, and I'm quite pleased with the work which we have done in that.
So the notion that we're running out of water because the mines are using a lot more water than it is necessary, does it stand?
Look, it's a lot more complex than that. Rustenburg gets water from about 3 or 4 sources. We get water from rainwater, from Khadi's water, from Postport water. It's our own water services entity. Right now, there is some industrial water which the mines obtain from Postport waterworks. And what we're trying to do moving forward is that to increase that uptake of industrial water so that they can have less reliance on potable water. There's a major project that we're doing that we started about 2 years ago of upgrading of Postport waterworks to increase supply. Currently, we are getting about 12 megaliters of water. We want to increase the supply to about 24 megaliters. We started the project. We have experienced some difficulties with it, some legal challenges, but we are on course to complete the project in about 2021. So that will augment bulk water supply. Now, that line affects quite a number of areas besides the mines. If you look at the areas of Ramuchana, Pitukong, which have also been experiencing water supply interruptions. So the solution is completion of this project, the Postport waterworks. We are also continuously in discussion with Khadi's water, with rainwater to augment their supply, and I'm quite pleased that they've been quite responsive. The other important thing is that what do we do with the water that is in circulation? Are we looking after it? There's a concern about the high amount of water losses. There's a project that we are doing in this financial year, water conservation and demand management, where we will be dealing with reducing water leaks so that we can take care of the available resources that we have. We subject water that we supply to residents to regular testing. And in terms of the test that we have conducted, the tests have said that, look, the test is, the water is suitable for the consumption. But there will be complaints about coloration, about the smell.
Yeah.
If I use the example of Khunou Park in Kllr West, the fact that we have now used a new connection of bulk supplies in December. I had a community meeting in that area, I think early January. I should be going back there again. The feedback we are getting is that the quality is improving. We have said to...
You getting this feedback from the community or the councillors?
No, I had a community meeting in Khunou.
Okay.
And this is after the crisis that we experienced in December. So I had a community meeting there. Then I made an inquiry about the quality, and the sense was that the quality seems to be improving. We have issues with the water that we buy from our water entity, the Rustenburg Water Services Trust, and we've said that we rather shut down the plant and address those issues of quality. So the water is suitable for consumption, but except that there are these issues which communities complain about, the smell and the colorization, and we believe that in the course of the next 2 or 3 months or so, we wouldn't have those difficulties.
Please help me understand, Mayor. I may not be so adept with the political space. If I'm a councillor and I'm part of your council, or I'm elected to represent a community elsewhere, is it ethical for me as well to own a water purification business where my community seems to be battling with water? If you discover that me as one of your councillors, in my area where there's water shortage, I actually own a business that sells this reverse osmosis water, would that be an ethical thing?
Well, yeah, I think it's kind of a difficult question, but would certainly frown upon a councillor that takes advantage of the plight of residents. We would expect councillors, to be part of finding a solution instead of capitalism. So I would certainly frown upon. Residents owe Rustenburg Municipality 5 billion rand. 5 billion rand.
That's a lot of money.
Now, if you think about what you can do with 5 billion rand, is a lot of things. So the concern that we've always raised with residents through our ward councillors is that the rate of payment for services in a lot of our areas is actually less than 10%. So the scenario in Rustenburg is that you've got a few people carrying the rest of the population, which is something which is not sustainable. So we believe out of the 5 billion, at least 2 billion is collectible, is money that we can collect. It is for that reason that over the course of the last 3 or 4 months, we've intensified credit control, we've intensified collection. We've seen if you look at the collection rate for the last 3 or 4 months, it's gone up tremendously. The beginning of the financial year, the first month collection rate was about 75%. In October it went up to about 98%. November, December, so it's been quite good. But the fact of the matter is that we have to intensify these efforts to collect this money. Because every rent that we are not able to collect, it means that it is delaying some or other service delivery program or program that will advance the living conditions of our residents.
Billing. I've witnessed personally a lot of people that maybe we're not quite adept with how it's done in major cities. A lot of people complain about their meter readings, their water meter readings. And this stems from the whole issue of the estimation. You know, this is my consumption for the month of January, it would have been 1,000 Rand. And then I go away for the month of February, I still get charged 1,000 Rand. And the question is, do you have mobile meter readers who actually go and read all the meters that are provided? Is that even possible to be done?
We have a team of employees that assist with the responsibility of doing meter reading. There were some challenges with the quality of work that they do, particularly at the level of supervision. The meters will be read, but there might be challenges in terms of when they now upload those meter readings into the system. There was a problem that the meter readers, the information could not integrate with our new financial system. And we believe we are dealing with a problem. But the real solution, if you cite the example of what must happen in other cities, the real solution is to roll out smart meters, right? Smart meters where you don't have, a situation where meter readers have to go inside. You can read those meters remotely. Okay. So that will completely eliminate a lot of things. Although there has been some challenges with the financial system and the billing that we do is part of the new financial system. So although there have been some challenges, we believe that progressively we are dealing with it. And I'll be quite pleased to look at individual cases and resolve. In the area of Waterfall East, we have over the years developed a new substation which will in fact double the amount of electricity supply in Rustenburg. I will have to follow up on why is it that they have constant outages. I'll probably have to come back and have a meeting in that area and give some explanation to residents. So in my mind, they shouldn't be having these constant outages. Firstly, with the university, we have advertised, we've gone on a request for proposals. Land has been identified. The university is part of our 2040 master plan to try and diversify the economy. We've identified land next to the university. We've gone on a request for proposals about twice. We'll be getting a report in the council meeting of March. Okay. on whether that process has brought any results.
So what you're saying is there's a consensus that you will build a university.
The university is our flagship project in terms of diversification of the local economy. We've gone quite a long steps ahead. One, we've identified land, we've gone on a request for proposals. Those proposals are currently being assessed, and if we believe that those proposals are sound, technically, financially, they've got the right partnership with the right tertiary institution, we'll give them the go-ahead. So we are determined to deliver on this project of a university, obviously in conjunction with players in the private sector.
By what year? 20?
Look, we hope that by the end of 2020 we will at least have appointed a preferred bidder. This is a long-term project. It's not something that you can deliver in 6 months.
Okay. Refuse collection is one of the challenges that gets spoken a lot about in Rustenburg.
Refuse collection, indeed, I want to accept that has been a problem. I don't want to beat around the bush. It's been a problem. It's been a problem. In the last 4 months or so, the Directorate appointed new service providers. Previously, it was done by one service provider. So they've kind of split the service in various areas and appointed people. Now, a lot of people were emerging SMMEs that did not really have the capacity. And there's a number of interventions we are doing. This week, we will be allocating more trucks to augment the service that is rendered by the service providers. This week we'll be going out on a more long-term solution, on tender, appointing somebody over a period of 3 years to provide a full service. We'll also be going on a procurement service to then get a lease option where you can lease trucks and augment your fleet. One of the major problems with waste collection is that we have employees in that unit who are not productive. So there's been this over-reliance on service providers, but you have employees that are paid every month but who are not helping us provide the service. The YOUFM has been quite clear that we've got to get those employees that help us and augment the resources that we have so that we can improve. So I accept that refuse collection has been a problem. We're intervening from this week, but we expect that from March, April, we'll have a more long-term solution. Look, refuse collection is if you have new service providers, it takes some time for them to get to grips with it. It's not quite a simple thing to do. But we've given them an opportunity to, with the support of the unit, the management there, we've given them whatever support that we can provide. But they've been battling, and that's why we've looked at other options. It does not eliminate, because it is an imperative. We can't eliminate the fact that there's got to be empowerment of emergency SMMEs. I think the question is that how do we better support them so that they can grow and they can provide the type of quality service that our city needs.
All right, is there another question you want to get to there?
The ICC, similarly with the university, we've identified land is next to the civic center. Yeah. One of the reasons why we've identified the ICC is that the civic center is always oversubscribed. So there's a demand for the type of a facility in Rustenburg. We've gone on the request for proposals, and we expect that at the end of March we will get some indication from the administration about how far we've got. So if you're not happy with the process, we will certainly invite any other proposals on the table, both in terms of a university or in terms of establishment of the ICC, so that we can help diversify the local economy. The RRT is another big one.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
Yeah, the RRT is another big one. We launched the projects as far back as 2011, and I think we were over-ambitious to say that by 2015 we'll have a system in operation. We're still in 2020. There's obviously a lot of concern about why is it that the system is not in operation. There's been quite a lot of delays over the years, some beyond the control of the municipality, few legal challenges on some of the major contracts on the trunk road, but I think we are beyond that. In 2019, there was a lot of delays of stoppages. People that go on site and stop projects demanding to be given opportunities to demand and to get work. I'm pleased to indicate that towards the end of 2019, we resolved many of those problems. There's work which is being undertaken now to build 6 stations. We expect that by the end of June, July this year, we'll have built the stations. The first thing is that the previous contract that was appointed to do those stations, we terminated that contract long before the collapse of the stations. We terminated them.
What was the reason?
For poor performance. We terminated for poor performance, and we've actually taken them to court. We've sued them for this shoddy work, and it is something that we expect to be finalized by the courts. In the meantime, we've appointed a new service provider. Right. There's an assessment which has been done of the existing stations, whether we need to demolish them, whether we need to reinforce them. In fact, yesterday we had a meeting with the industry, the taxi industry, about it, and we firmly said that in order for us to be absolutely certain that we won't have a recurrence of this, perhaps let's get a third opinion, somebody else, structural engineer, to come and assess work which has been done, so that we can arrive at a decision whether we must reinforce the existing ones, whether we must completely demolish and build new ones.
Those are costs.
Right. Those are costs that we will recover from the previous contract. If there's shoddy work, we need to destroy them. Through this civil action we've taken against the previous service provider, we can recover this and ensure that we are on course. So I just want to complete this RRT thing. So we want to go live later in 2020, but there's a very critical thing that we're pursuing. I think the major infrastructure has been done. We are quite advanced in terms of stations. If you look at the CBD of Rustenburg next to Cottage Bakery, that work is quite advanced. We will implement the system incrementally. Right. Stations which are ready, the infrastructure has been rolled out, will start with operations and then ramp it up over the years. The critical thing is buses, right? We have paid a deposit of buses, about 30% deposit that we were required to pay. The bus supplier that has been appointed through supply chain is MAN, a company called MAN. Now they have long lead times of supplying these buses. Initially they told us in 2019 that they can supply these buses over a period of 12 months. Now the latest report we got is that no, they are looking at new designs which could take longer. We have said, what is it that we can do so that we can meet this deadline we've set of delivering on at least the first phase.
Allow me to say this, Mayor. Allow me to say this. This sounds like a mess. I don't think that when you're sitting on your own, you sit there and you say this has gone the way that we had planned. Would you agree?
Definitely not. The major work of the project has been done. Right. The major work. What do I mean by the major work? Since 2015. We have put in the major infrastructure. The trunk routes, the major trunk routes of the RRT, if you go through the Softrekens Road, if you go to Tabazimbi Road, all of that infrastructure has been put in place, right? Save for the stations which have collapsed, all of the infrastructure has been put in place, remains intact. There was a lot of concern a few years ago about the state of the CBD, the road infrastructure. Those projects have been completed. The only thing which is outstanding, like I was saying, is buses, right? Now you can't say that having completed all of the infrastructure, beyond cost in terms of the stations, beyond cost in terms, we've paid the deposit of buses. We are now currently in discussion with the City of Cape Town to acquire some of their unused buses. We have had negotiations with them over the course of 2019. We're just waiting for a council resolution so that we can get these buses much earlier. So it's taking longer. There's been delays. Some delays were beyond our control, but I certainly would reject any suggestion that it's a mess. I reiterate the commitment that 2020 we will have some operation of the system, although it won't be the full scale. But we will ramp it up over the years. Right. The roads in Khabane are in that state because of a project that we have done, replacement of aged AC infrastructure, both water and sewer. Right. So we've got to look at it, understand it from that. Over the course of the last 2 years, we embarked on this major project. There have been constant problems in Khabane of the water sewage leakages. So we went and got money to do those projects. We had problems with the service provider. We have a new one on board. And one of the things that they will start doing from March is now fixing all of those roads. So we are aware of it. The reason is because of those projects that we have done, and there's somebody that will start working on those roads from March. I want to accept, indeed, there are issues of procurement at the municipality. I don't want to sugarcoat it. There are serious problems at procurement, and some of those problems have been acknowledged, have been revealed by the AG. It's horrendous things that have been happening at the supply chain. But the UMM is on course of it. There's actions which has been taken. People have been subject to disciplinary hearing. Some have been ongoing. There's even criminal cases which have been lost. So there are indeed problems. There's also been problems in terms of project management. Right? You appoint people to provide a certain service and then you don't monitor their performance accordingly. Now the UMM is correcting the whip. Again, he's taking action. And we believe that with this background, with this understanding of the environment, we won't have these issues where you appoint service providers and you don't pay attention to their work. Look, I want to accept that there are certain aspects of our administration, certain parts of our workforce that is not really committed to serving the municipality. I gave an example of refuse collection. I can give many other examples.
Please give those examples,
yeah, right.
Because you're the guy we blame.
Yeah, right. If you look at the CBD of Rustenburg, as an example, you discover that there's a lot of illegal connections, illegal electricity connections. And when you go there and take action, some of our employees go back at night and reconnect without those people paying fines. So there's a huge issue of discipline in the institution, right? And we are confident now with the new MM that we will begin to see improvement in that regard. We can't have a situation where employees come to work, residents pay their salaries, and they don't provide those services. It's not all. There are pockets of our administration that is really committed to doing its work. That so we can't paint all the employees with the same brush. So we do have those challenges. I want to accept it, but we believe that with a new municipal manager, we will resolve those challenges. Construction has started. If you go now to the Cllr, you'll find contractors on the road. If you look at, they started the Khlabani platforms, to do the roadworks there, so they're on site. If you go on the bus rank side, the shelter has been blown away by the storm, but there are contractors on site to revamp it. But we're also in discussion with the taxi industry about the overall upgrading of the facility, because it doesn't cope with the size of a growing city. So that's something that we will be doing over the course of the next two overall upgrades. But in terms of issues of maintenance, you can go on site. You'll find people on site doing the maintenance and the upgrade. Right, the mall. Well, our involvement firstly is that we made land available. It's a project which originated many years ago. So we made land available. Now, part of the reasons you consider when you make land available is the commercial and economic benefits to be derived by the community.
Can I ask you to pause there for a second? You made land available, you sold the land.
Yes. So part of the requirement in legislation is that when you make land available for development, you've got to answer the question, what are the commercial and economic values to be derived, to be enjoyed by the community, as you dispose of this land. So in other words, you expect that there will be jobs created, there will be empowerment of SMMEs as you then dispose of this land. Now, there was a steering committee established with the mall project. It's part of the collaboration that we agreed with the developer, that let's work together to ensure that those principles I've alluded to are adhered to. We've got to do that through a steering committee, bring on board SMMEs so that they're given opportunities, provide employment opportunities. Now, we were unhappy about the fact that, there was a huge outcry by SMMEs in Rustenburg. You can't have a situation where you are building a mall of 750 million and then none of your emerging SMMEs are provided real opportunities there, right? So that was what the fight was about. There were meetings with the developer and there will be commitments and they wouldn't stick to them. So you will sit and agree, this is what should happen, we will give feedback to SMMEs and it would happen. So it seemed to the broader community that we are condoning this situation where people are not able to access opportunities at the project. I'm pleased to say that at the beginning of January, we sat with the developer, we sat with the contractor, and we agreed on a process that would ensure that local SMMEs get opportunities. Opportunities will be advertised. There will be the necessary process of screening, of looking at compliance by local economic development, and ultimately the contractor will make the final appointment. So those issues, I'm pleased to indicate that they have been resolved. The project is on course, and if and when problems arise, we will use the steering committee to resolve them. I've said earlier on in the response to the issue of refuse, I said that we are bringing additional capacity. There's more trucks. I had a discussion this morning with the director. There's 2 more trucks that we will put in the fleet so that we can augment the services which are there. Now, the fact of the matter is that except our experience over the last 4 months, the service provider has provided this service efficiently, right? Efficiently, and without much complaints from residents. The complaints which have arisen, those have arisen over the course of the last 4 months. And I acknowledge that we have not done well in that regard. We are tending to it through this additional supply, through additional other measures which I've alluded to. So I don't want to sugarcoat. We have not done well. I accept it. We must get our act together in that regard. I was in this area last week. I went to Sondela. We walked throughout the area. We looked at the condition of the roads. There was that outcry, The feedback that I got this morning was that there was another planned interruption. Perhaps the issue in Nile did notice once. There was another planned interruption by rainwater. They were doing some routine maintenance, and the unit manager of water told me that they have resolved. They are restoring supply today. I will follow it up now, so that indeed that is the case. We're able to restore supply.
Clearly, you're going to have to come back.
Yeah, certain. There was an irregular acquisition of yellow fleet in the year 2018, right? Somebody was appointed to provide yellow fleet. Firstly, let me explain. A company was appointed to help raise finance to acquire yellow fleet. But ultimately, what happened is that they used the appointment for the company itself to supply yellow fleet. Now, they wanted to supply yellow fleet, or did they supply some of it at heavily inflated prices? When we became aware of this, we then took a view to stop any payments to the service provider, to report the matter to the Hawks for investigation, to go to court to set aside this appointment of the service provider. Now, the yellow fleet is there because there is this ongoing legal battle. To do the things that I've explained. We have not paid for all of it. We've paid for some that we are using. The point that the resident is making is very, very important. I mean, if you look at what happened here, you had a situation where at water unit, they make an order of 16 TLBs. When you then find out later about how many operators do you have, they say they have 4 operators. So how do you order 16 TLBs when you have 4 operators?
I will come in again, man, and say, as much as I sympathize with you, this happens under your watch. That's why I raised the point that it looks like you're working with a council that's seemingly, or you're working with people that are eager to sabotage you.
Look, the point is that when we became aware of these things, we take action. Okay, we take action. We stopped payments. They gave us an invoice towards beginning of July last year of about 250 million. We didn't pay this invoice. Instead, we have taken these steps that these things will happen. The issue is that what do you do when you become aware? So as soon as I became aware, we instituted an investigation. We stopped payments. We've gone to court to set these things aside. We've taken disciplinary action. So those are the steps that we have taken to deal with that scenario. The issue of water, I think I've dealt with that. Yeah. I was aware of the water supply interruptions in the area. That's why I went out to speak to those residents. Last year's supply interruption was because of the repairs that we're doing at Haystack. It's a major, it was a major water leak. If you go on site at Haystack, you next to the library, you get some understanding of the extent of the work. The alternative supply when there's interruptions is water tankers. Now we've had major problems of water tankers. It's something that we would resort to when we really have to, because it creates its own problems of regular expenditure, which we don't like to resolve. But where we need to, we will use these water tankers. The major problem with water supply interruption remains communication. Right. Even when there's a plant shut down or you're doing maintenance of pipe burst, is to communicate to residents to indicate that there's a pipe burst, we have to shut down supply, and this is when we expect. So we need to improve on that. So that's something that I've alluded to. Refuse collection, I've accepted.
You have.
It's been a problem, but we are turning to it through additional capacity, through a more long-term solution that we will have in place by the beginning of April. Right, I think there's one of the reasons why as far back as 2014 we developed what is called a 2014 master plan, because we had realized that we are excessively dependent on one sector of the economy, and the reality is that over the last 5 years or so the mines have laid off quite a lot of people, so we're quite proactive then to then go and develop this master plan. What is this master plan about? The master plan is about how do you grow other sectors of the economy so that you can reduce your dependence on mining. What are these sectors? First one is to to develop Rustenburg as an educational hub. I've already talked about a university, right? Second one is about growing agriculture, right? These programs have taken a bit of time, but some are at the level of implementation. If you look at the area of Patima, there's a joint project that we did with Mpho and Platinum where we allocated land. They gave initial funding of 20 million. We're bringing other people on board. You can go and visit the project. In the areas of Matupe Start, we are supporting emerging farmers so that they can go to the level of commercial farming. Right. If you look at tourism, there's a number of things that we are doing. Right next to the Civic Center, we are on the verge of opening a new flea market. Right.
Which is where? At the Paul Bodenstein Park?
No, the flea market is at that intersection.
Okay.
Right. But there's other things that we are doing. We bought land of about 120 hectares. At that point, this land was earmarked for the development of a special economic zone. Although there are issues with national government and provincial government on the exact location of the SEZ, but we've taken it a step further. We've gone on a request for proposals, and awards have been made to develop an industrial hub. We have applied to DTI to get incentives to get that going. We have appointed somebody to do a fresh produce market. It's a project worth about 2 billion rand. We've appointed somebody on the same portion of land to do cement manufacture. Right. So the plan, therefore, is to grow these other sectors with these examples that have been given. If you look at the areas of Monakato as an example, we've appointed somebody to do a whole new precinct development there. Similarly in Bitikong, similarly in Kaban. So we're not just looking at the CBD, but we're looking at we've got commercial developments lined up to be rolled out over the next 3 years of about 10 billion rand. Yeah.
I want to thank you. Look, there's a chance that it's electioneering. You never know with you politicians. You never know. A lot of people are disillusioned about Rustenburg. But the fact that you as a mayor remain accessible, it gives people hope. And the fact that you make admissions in certain spaces where things are not going well, it really gives us hope. I'd love for you to come back so we can chat some more. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for the
All right, that's where we're going to leave it with Councillor Mpho Khunou, the mayor of Rustenburg. I hope, even if we couldn't play all of your voice notes, some of the questions were duplicates out of what he was able to answer. Let's do this again with him in a month's time.